Hello friends, this video on inverse trigonometric functions part 4 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Before watching this video, please make sure that you have watched part 1 to part 3. So if you want to find the inverse of cos x, we know that the natural domain and range for cos x is also r2 minus 1 to 1. Over the natural domain and range, cos is also not invertible. You see this is also not invertible. So what should we do? Here also let's take one interval. So if you take minus pi by 2 to plus pi by 2, same interval which we have taken for sine, you see that it is again not 1 over 1 because for this value and this value, this output is same. So we can't take this range. So let's take 0 to pi. So if you take 0 to pi, if you see all these values are unique, this is 1, this is something 1 by 2, this is 0, minus 1 by 2, minus 1, all the values are unique. Thus, we know that if you take 0 to pi as the domain, this function becomes 1 over 1 and 1, where the range obviously will be minus 1 to 1. If you take the domain as 0 to pi and range as minus 1 to 1, this function becomes invertible. This function becomes 1 over 1 and 1. So the restricted domain and range for cosine function is 0 to pi to minus 1 to 1. So if you talk about cos inverse function, it will be just flip this. So for cos inverse function, it will be minus 1 to 1 to 0 to pi. So this becomes restricted domain and range for cos inverse function. Same thing applies here also. The 0 to pi is called principal value branch, but you can see that if you take pi to 2 pi also, in this case also, you can find a function, in this interval also, this function, the cos function becomes invertible. Even in this also, it is invertible. This also is invertible. Take any of these domain, the cos becomes invertible. But this guy 0 to pi is called principal value branch. There are so many branch for this cos function is invertible, but this particular branch 0 to pi is called principal value branch for cosine function. Same thing here also, if y is equal to cos inverse x, then cos y is equal to. Now let's say the graph of the cos function, cos inverse. Same thing what we did, we have got y is equal to cos inverse x. So y is equal to cos x was one function, we got y is equal to cos inverse x. And now after plotting all the points, we got this as the graph. So I'm not doing that task because it's a little tedious task. You get y is equal to cos x, y is equal to cos inverse x, this function, and then you keep putting the value of x, different values of x, and then you get this y, and then you plot the graph. So this little tedious tasks, you can do it, but you'll get the same graph. So this is the graph we got for y is equal to cos inverse x. Just remember this graph. If you see this graph, you should be able to make out that this is a cos inverse graph. Thank you. Visit examfear.com to watch free educational videos, try free online tests, get the best quality study materials, study from the best tutors and mentors, and much more. Thanks once again.